Hello guys and welcome to Game of Box Office. Today I will focus on the upcoming Christopher Nolan movie Dunkirk, which will be released in summer next year. As always, I will start with the points who work in favor for the movie. First and foremost, you have to name of course the big man behind this project, Christopher Nolan. Nolan is, box office wise, probably the second biggest name in Hollywood behind James Cameron when it comes to the pure box office power of his films, which come together just because of his name on the poster. After he successfully completed the Dark Knight trilogy in 2012 and delivered unforgettable great movies with Inception and Interstellar, his reputation when it comes to the quality of his movies is untouchable. From 2005 with Batman Begins until 2014 with Interstellar, all of his movies were box office successes, and some of them, The Dark Knight Rises, Inception and Interstellar, even box office monsters. There's just not one point when it comes to Christopher Nolan's reputation which does not work in favor for Dunkirk. Because it is a Christopher Nolan movie, the next point I want to name is the cast. Of course, when Nolan calls in for a new movie, all big names are gathering around him. This time we will see Cillian Murphy again. We will see the fresh Oscar awarded Mark Rylance, and on top of that, Tom Hardy, who is on a winning strike right now after a great year with Mad Max Fury Road and The Revenant. These three actors are already a great pro point for the movie when it comes to the box office power. But the real deal right here is the casting of Harry Styles, the musician from One Direction. This guy is a total surprise and he appeals to a totally different but huge audience which could help Dunkirk to reach box office heights. While the pro point list already ends here, it's important to say that these 2 points have a huge weight on the box office performance, so don't get frustrated just now. When it comes to the negative aspects, Dunkirk clearly has to fight some battles. In the prediction on Spider-Man Homecoming, I already noted how insanely crowded the time span from mid-June to mid-August is in 2017. And unfortunately for Dunkirk, the movie sits right in the middle of this time span. Right before Dunkirk premieres, there is War of the Planet of the Apes to hit cinemas. It's really tough for a war movie to lose audiences to another genre, so very unfortunately for Dunkirk, it has to face another war movie right before the beginning. And while with most other movies you could argue that the quality of a Nolan movie will kill the other movie at the box office, the last 2 Planet of the Apes movies really don't have to hide quality-wise behind the last 2 Nolan movies. And when War of the Planet of the Apes comes close to the quality of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dunkirk really has to fear this movie. On top of that, just 2 weeks after Dunkirk, there will be the sequel to Prometheus, Alien Covenant. This movie is a much anticipated sequel, and while it's not a war movie, it will be a very dark and gritty sci-fi movie, which will be probably also R-rated. This movie could also hurt Dunkirk's performance over the long run. And keep in mind that this is not a superhero movie. Christopher Nolan's movies besides the Dark Knight trilogy always performed great over the long distance, and the good War of the Planet of the Apes or a good new Alien movie would probably be of no good for Dunkirk. This is all I want to mention when it comes to the positive and negative points for Dunkirk. I will now fade in all of these aspects and will start with the pessimistic prediction on Dunkirk. Let's say the movie matches the quality of Interstellar or The Dark Knight Rises. In my opinion, the weakest movies since 2005 from Christopher Nolan. In this situation, when War of the Planet of the Apes and or the new Alien movie are quite good, they will hurt the performance of Dunkirk over the long distance. Please also keep in mind that Dunkirk will probably be a R-rated movie. It's not safe for 100%, but this prediction right here will estimate the rating of Dunkirk as an R1. In this scenario, I see Dunkirk to open with around $50 million, similar to Interstellar. Because of the strong competition from War of the Planet of the Apes and the new Alien movie, and because of the fact that the movie is an R-rated one, Dunkirk will fall faster than other Nolan movies and will end its run with $150 million in total in the domestic market. On top of that, Dunkirk will earn around $320 million in overseas territories, for a combined total of $470 million. Would Dunkirk be considered a financial success with that? Well, let's take a look at the budgets of the last Nolan movies. Inception had a 160 million production budget. Interstellar sits on 165 million. The Dark Knight Rises had a 250 million production budget. But this was a franchise movie and a follow-up on The Dark Knight, which made over $1 billion worldwide without 3D and without a grown international market. So you can take this amount of money into consideration. Because Dunkirk is rated R and Inception and Interstellar were rated PG-13, Dunkirk will probably sit on a 150 million production budget, a little bit below Interstellar and Inception, and with that on the same budget level like other high-end R-rated movies like The Revenant or Mad Max Fury Road. Let's add another 50 to 60 million for marketing and Dunkirk would sit on overall costs of 210 million. With 235 million coming back to the studio, Warner Brothers would already earn some money with the cinematic release, and the earnings from home media entertainment would be 100% profit. So, you see, Dunkirk will be a financial success, however you turn the facts around. Let's move on to the realistic prediction. When Dunkirk comes in above the quality of Interstellar, and when War of the Planet of the Apes or the sequel to Prometheus fail to reach a high level when it comes to the quality of the movie, you can expect Dunkirk to come closer to the gross of Interstellar. In this scenario, I see an opening weekend of 55 million, which will conclude to a domestic total of $190 million after a multiplier of 3.45. On top of that, Dunkirk will earn 420 million in overseas territories for a combined worldwide total of $610 million. With that, Dunkirk would outgross Interstellar in the domestic market and would only fall short of Interstellar's worldwide gross by $65 million. Now, as always, let's think about the optimistic outcome of Dunkirk. When Dunkirk matches the quality of Inception or The Dark Knight and will become an instant classic, what is actually not so unrealistic when we talk about Christopher Nolan, the movie could become a competitor for the highest R-rated movie gross worldwide. In this scenario, I see Dunkirk to open with around $65 million. With an incredible run over the long distance and the multiplier of 3.75, Dunkirk will end its domestic performance with $243.75 million. On top of that, because of Nolan's widely known name, Dunkirk will earn a massive $510 million in overseas territories for a combined final worldwide gross of $753.75 million. With that, Dunkirk would be the second highest grossing R-rated movie of all time worldwide, just behind Deadpool. Dunkirk would have the 7th highest domestic gross of all time when it comes to R-rated movies, and the overseas gross would be the biggest that an R-rated movie ever collected. Dunkirk would outgross Interstellar and would certainly be one of the greatest achievements out of Christopher Nolan's career. The next video will be a prediction about the possible gross of Jason Bourne, Alien Covenant, or War of the Planet of the Apes. Thanks for watching this video, guys. I really hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments what the most fitting scenario is in your opinion, and also don't forget to let me know which prediction you want to see the most. Leave a like and subscribe to my channel when you like what I do here on YouTube. See you soon, bye bye.